and that UNCLOS, is really focused on creating. We all benefit from that. With that, I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman Salmon.
Thank you. When I first started serving on the Foreign Affairs Committee, it was 1995. Warren Christopher was the Secretary of State. And I remember asking the question in a hearing like this, what was our State Department policy toward China? And the answer kind of astounded me, yet it's been a policy of many administrations. He called it strategic ambiguity. I thought that was the oddest policy I'd ever heard. And having been to China myself probably close to 50 times and speaking the language, living in Taiwan for a couple of years, being around them a lot of time, I think this is a country we need to have some real strategic clarity with. And I think one of the reasons that things are getting so out of control in the South China Sea is that everybody's kind of dancing around the 800-pound gorilla in the room. China has stated pretty openly that with this arbitral tribunal decision that's expected in a couple weeks, that they don't intend to adhere to it. So then what? I guess that's my question. What are our options then? A lot of our allies in the region are extremely concerned about China's land grabbing, and as the chairman of the House Committee said, that not only island grabbing, but putting military installations on those islands. And so virtually all of our allies in the region have expressed grave concerns about what China is doing, and they're waiting on us to do something. And what is that something? If they flout the decision by the tribunal, what's our next move? Because I think all eyes are going to be watching us. I know we don't specifically have any land disputes ourselves, but our allies do. The other concern I have is that I think that the South China Sea is a real tinderbox. Whenever President Obama or Secretary Kerry talks about, or Ash Carter talks about the South China Sea, it's always one of the top national security concerns that we have. It's always delineated as such. And so what I'm wondering, with a lot of the close encounters with the ships and the planes, just one wrong move at any given time could escalate into a major conflict, a major problem. What is our recourse if they just flout that decision?
So, to your point about China, Mr. Chairman, it is a big and obviously very strategically important relationship to the United States. It's one that has grown dramatically over the last several years, but one that contains disagreements, but also contains a great deal of areas where we have common interests and can cooperate fairly effectively. And I would say that that dialogue, that cooperation has grown quite a bit over the last several years. It is true that we still have areas of disagreement, but part of that is our continued dialogue and our continued cooperation has allowed us to be able to deal with those areas pretty frankly. Now, there are areas, and the South China Sea is a clear example, where we continue to have a very significant difference of opinion and a great deal of friction. Our strategy overall from day one has been multifaceted. It includes diplomatic, military, capacity building, and economic tools aimed at shaping the strategic environment such that flouting the rules-based order and not playing by the same rules as others, the incentives aren't there, and ensuring that the effects of coercion or law-breaking aren't positive. The net effect of what we are seeing is a situation where no claimant can expect to flout the law, flout the ruling in a way that doesn't draw international approbation and interest and a great deal of scrutiny. And in fact has resulted in a situation where we're seeing a much greater demand for U.S. security presence, U.S. security cooperation, U.S. engagement, and we've seen much greater interest in economic diversification, including interest in TPP, expanded security ties to other regional players such as India and Japan, such that flouting international law, pushing back, behaving in a way that is not consistent with the rules-based order isn't paying the dividends that it might otherwise. And I believe that our intensive diplomatic, economic, and military engagement has played an important role in creating an environment where the payoff just isn't worth it. I think it's clear that Southeast Asian claimants continue to stand up for their rights and push back against efforts to coerce and bully them. We've seen a great deal of growth in multilateral cooperation on these big strategic issues, and I would expect that to continue.
What can we do to encourage ASEAN to step up to the plate in a bigger way? Because heretofore, I know that most of the ASEAN members, because I've met with them, they are all very concerned about what's going on in the South China Sea and Chinese belligerence. But ASEAN as a group has yet to be incredibly effective at one strong voice to deal maybe some reputational harm to China. What can we do to help maybe make that stronger, that response from them?
Well, thank you. ASEAN has actually been a consistent voice for international law and an international rules-based system for the nearly 50 years that they've existed. But you are correct, Mr. Chairman, that their institution has some limitations. There have been some instances and some limitations to their ability to speak out. But on this issue, they've actually spoken out fairly clearly, fairly recently, both in their joint statement with the president at the Sunnyland Summit in February, where they made a clear statement in support of the Convention on the Law of the Sea and the right of countries to pursue dispute resolution through all peaceful processes, including legal and diplomatic processes. They've made their own standalone statements through their foreign ministers at their foreign ministerial in April. And we expect them to continue to take that principled line on the importance of the rule of law and international conventions such as the law of the sea.
Finally, is imposing reputational harm the absolute best that we can do? Other than upgrading the maritime security capabilities of our partners in the region, do we have any other tools for inducing behavioral change in the South China Sea?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I said, our strategy is multifaceted. It is diplomatic. It's military. It is about capacity building with the other claimants. It's about economic tools, but it's a cumulative, long-term strategy aimed at making clear that the strategic environment is such that it is not in any claimant's or any nation's interest to violate international law.
Mr. Sherman.
Thank you. There's only one significantly inhabited island in dispute in the South and East China Sea. It's called Taiwan.